Arrow, you really had me going there for a minute. Whew, man, I was scared. Wait, what just happened? Oh, Arrow, you son of a... Hey guys, this is Matt. So I just finished watching Arrow, and wow, this was a lot better than the episode 2 weeks ago. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of setup in this episode, and a couple of things that were kind of throwaway, I felt. So I'm going to run through some stuff in no particular order. Watch out for spoilers. If you haven't watched the episode yet, I'm going to talk about things that happened at the end. Some pretty big things that have happened near the end that are going to set some other stuff up. So if you haven't watched it, pause this, go watch it, and then come back. So first thing I'll talk about is Doug Jones as Deathbolt. I kind of thought he was sort of a throwaway character. I think his purpose on the show wasn't for him to be a villain on the show, but really to set up a couple things. Number one being Ray Palmer as the Atom, finally sort of learning the ropes a little bit, sort of paying his dues, getting knocked down, getting back up a little. He had Oliver help him, which I kind of thought was cheesy. Oliver sort of remote controlled the Atom suit, which it just looked weird. It just sort of looked weird in this sort of gritty world that they have, that Oliver's strapping on these gauntlets and remote controlling the suit. But hey, that wasn't the point. The point was for Ray to sort of figure out, get a little experience fighting villains, because he's going to be doing that a lot more in the spinoff show. I think another reason for Deathbolt to be there was a surprise visit from Cisco, and for both Cisco and Ray to sort of start talking about where did he get his abilities, because he wasn't around in Central City the night that the particle accelerator exploded. So how did he get his powers? So I think that was a very, very small seed that was planted, maybe for future episodes of Arrow, although probably not. Maybe to be explored more in next season of The Flash, or maybe even in the Flash Arrow spinoff show. I think they're actually calling it The Atom for right now. So yeah, we're going to see more of that. Probably not for a while. I think they're just, like I said, planting the seeds, getting you to start thinking about things, and to establish that there are metahumans around that didn't get their powers from the particle accelerator. So we're going to see that in probably another season of Arrow or Flash or The Atom. So speaking of Ray, I want to talk about that for a second. I really, really like the character of Ray Palmer. I think he's funny and he's charming, and he's smart, and he's a billionaire. So he's got everything that a superhero team can need. But I just don't like the character of the Atom right now. I mean, it's just, again, like I said in the last Arrow video, he's too close of an Iron Man knockoff, and it's just too much of a departure from the comics for me. He just doesn't seem to serve much of a purpose right now. And maybe they had bigger plans for him in the season and it didn't go that way. It just kind of seems like that they're only just now starting to develop him, and the season's almost over. I really hope that when the spinoff show comes out, we see him go in a little bit different direction than just a guy wearing a high-tech suit. It just doesn't fit. They've said that he fits more with the Flash world than the Arrow world. I know they're the same universe, but they're still distinct stories, and they have their own sort of feel to them. And he does fit better with the Flash. So maybe if he were to pop up on the Flash a little bit more, maybe he would fit better. But I'm just not enjoying the character of the Atom in Arrow right now. Although Ray Palmer is great, but hopefully he'll move on to the Flash at some point. So while Ray Palmer / the Atom and Deathbolt were part of this episode, that was only a small part. The biggest thing about this episode was Roy in prison. So after my last episode, kind of sort of ranting a little bit about the very end and how Roy turned himself in as the Arrow, even though Captain Lance knew clearly that it was Oliver. I was listening to the Arrow Squad podcast and reading on their Facebook page a little, and they made me feel better about Roy confessing being the Arrow. Sure, Lance knows it, but he can't really come out and say, yeah, I know this because Master Assassin told me. He plus he can't really divulge that, or if he did divulge that information, it may come out that he actually worked with them for a while. So he knows, but he can't really publicly state it. So that, hearing that explanation, I didn't think about that admittedly. So hearing that made me feel a lot better about it. So props to those guys for bringing that up. And then so we get some more detail around that. This episode, Lance talks to Roy and tells him, I know that Oliver's the Arrow, and I know you're standing up for him. And Roy actually tells him about killing the police officer when he was under the influence of Mirakuru last season, and didn't really seem to faze Lance that much. I guess his vendetta against Oliver is that major that that's all he really cares about right now, or at least that's what it seems like. But seeing Roy in prison was pretty neat. It was pretty. There was a good fight scene. I like that. I loved seeing him take down all those cons in prison. I really like the character of Roy, and I kind of been disappointed. I was excited to hear that he was going to be Arsenal before the season started, and when they released that first image of him in his red suit, I thought that was fantastic. I was really excited about it, but I've been really a little bit disappointed throughout the season. I feel like they haven't really developed him as much as they could. So you can imagine what I was thinking when Roy gets stabbed in prison and supposedly dies. I mean, my mouth dropped. I was pretty pissed, actually, until near the end. They bring him back in, and it turns out it was all a ruse to clear Oliver's name, and I guess Roy didn't really want to go to prison for that. So I was so thankful for that. I really like Roy's character. I wish he would get developed more, but at least he's alive. Now, it was sad at the end of the episode because he did leave, but from what I'm hearing, he's just leaving as a series regular. He will be back as a guest star at some point, hopefully by the end of the season, maybe with a bit involving Thea, which I'll talk about in a minute, and then maybe he'll guest star on Flash or the spin-off show. That's what I'm hoping anyway. So luckily he is alive, and we'll see what happens. I was kind of thinking that at some point he would switch from being Arsenal to Red Arrow, and that would influence Arrow becoming Green Arrow. I think something like that's going to happen at some point. I don't think it'll involve Roy, but at least he's alive. I'll take it. I'll talk about the flashbacks just for a minute. The flashback scenes in this episode I kind of thought were throwaway as well. I don't really know where they're going with this, although we did see that Amanda Waller has been held captive. So that I'm not really sure where they're going with that. I watched a couple videos suggesting that they might be phasing her character out because of the Suicide Squad movie coming up, and I guess that makes sense because they did the same thing with Deadshot a couple weeks ago. So I sort of hate to see that because I liked the Suicide Squad being part of this world, part of this show. It was always fun to see that group come back together. To see which previous villains were going to be part of that. So it's a bit of a shame to see that go away, but hopefully the movie will be great and that'll make up for it. But the rest of the flashbacks, they had them breaking in, trying to get the antidote or the vaccine for the alpha omega virus. I don't know where they're going with that. I kind of thought that was going to be the explanation for Oliver being alive after supposedly being killed by Ra's al Ghul. That didn't happen either, so I'm not really sure where they're going with that. The flashbacks aren't bad, and they actually seem to be a little bit fewer per episode these days. So it's not really good or bad. It doesn't really excite me. It doesn't bother me when they're on. I just kind of want to see where it goes and what it's going to have to do with the rest of the story. So really the last thing to talk about in this episode, and it's probably the most major thing that happened, was Thea versus Ra's al Ghul, and Thea getting run through by Ra's sword at the very end. So that is going to set up the rest of the season, I believe. That's going to be the catalyst for what drives Oliver to take over the League of Assassins. Now, we've seen in trailers that there is going to be a big team up between Oliver and Flash and Firestorm at some point. And in those previews, Oliver is wearing the League of Assassins gear. So we all know, really, that he is going to wind up at some point. There's even been a recent Arrow trailer where he says that he is... I can't remember what his League of Assassins name is, but he's telling somebody that they will obey. He's the heir to the demon, and they will obey. So that's going to be the catalyst, and we even saw it in the trailer for next week's episode. He's carrying Thea towards the Lazarus Pit, so that's going to be neat. We finally get to see the Lazarus Pit, which we've all been wanting to see since we first heard that Ra's was going to be on the show. Again, we thought that was going to be the original way that Oliver survived being killed by Raish. That wasn't it. We thought it was going to be the Alpha Omega. That wasn't it either. So give us something. Come on. We finally get the Lazarus Pit. We actually see them dunking Thea into it. And then we see what looks like her jumping out and attacking Oliver. So that's gonna be something special. That may be where Roy comes back, because it was funny because at the end when Roy says, "Please tell Thea that I'm alive and I'm sorry that I couldn't say bye," but then they didn't tell her. Well, I guess they didn't have a chance to tell her because Ray showed up in her loft and killed her, supposedly. Smashed her through a glass table, which was pretty intense. But she didn't get the chance to find out that Roy was alive. So when she is revived by the Lazarus Pit, she's probably going to be pretty pissed. She may blame Oliver. She may attack him. We'll see how that goes. But that's going to be pretty interesting to see Oliver sort of take over the League of Assassins for a while. Wonder what he's going to do with it. I was actually reading some of Stephen Amell's tweets right after the episode, and he was tweeting about, somebody asked him to what his favorite part of the rest of the season was, and he said evil Oliver, something like that. So that'll be really interesting to see what he does. And really, at this point there's really nowhere else for him to go. He's lost he doesn't know it yet, but he's lost his sister, he's lost Roy, he's lost the Arrow persona, so there's really nothing else for him to do but go to the League. So that'll be really interesting to see what he does there and how he utilizes it. I just wonder how long he'll stay there. I kind of think that it's going to be pretty short-lived. I think he'll be done with it by the end of the season, but you never know. Maybe that'll be the big season cliffhanger is, how long is he going to be here? He's still there. How do we get him back home? I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I know it's going to be great. So this episode, I liked it a lot better. I liked it for what it's going to set up. I think the rest of the season is going to be pretty epic. I feel a lot better about it than I did last episode. I just didn't like that one for some reason, but it's turning around. I mean, every show has its goods and bads. But the overall package is still really, really great. One of my favorite shows on TV, and I really can't wait to see what happens. So that's all I'll say about it for now. If you agree or if you have anything else to add, please do so in the comments below. If you want to keep up with everything we're doing, just follow us at Twitch or YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, all of those /Nerd Punch. And until next time, we'll talk to you guys later. See ya.